All right, welcome. We've got a massive night of football ahead of us, with a full slate of action across both the Europa League and the EFL Cup. We have been digging through all the data to forecast tonight's winners, losers, and, of course, the potential surprises. So let's break it all down.
So you've got 13 games spread across two major competitions, all happening tonight. The big question is pretty simple, right? Where are the absolute sure things, and where are the upsets just waiting to happen? Let's get into it.
You know, tonight is really a tale of two completely different stories. Over in the Europa League, all the data points to 9 really tightly contested battles. But then you look at the EFL Cup, and it is a completely different picture. We're talking 4 games that look like classic David versus Goliath clashes, and we're going to start right there.
Okay, first up, the EFL Cup. This is where the predictions point towards some pretty clear mismatches, just based on sheer team strength and where they sit in the leagues.
I mean, look at this. This is probably the starkest example of that mismatch. You have Tottenham sitting third in the Premier League, the absolute top tier of English football, and they're facing Doncaster Rovers, who are 5th in League 2. That's all the way down in the 4th tier. That isn't just a gap, my friends, that is a chasm.
So it's really no surprise that this massive disparity leads to a pretty definitive prediction. A 3-0 victory for Tottenham. I mean, with a star like Son available and firing on all cylinders, they just have way too much firepower for Doncaster to handle.
And listen, this isn't a one-off thing. It's a clear pattern tonight. Arsenal are also predicted to win 3-0. Newcastle and Manchester City are heavily favored as well. The message from all the data is loud and clear. Expect the Premier League giants to really flex their muscles tonight.
Okay, let's switch gears to the Europa League. Now, while things are a lot tighter overall, the analysis still points to some clear favorites, especially for the teams playing on their home turf.
Yeah, you start to see a real pattern emerge here. Home advantage seems to be the big decider. We're looking at 4 matches where the home team is predicted to just edge out a victory. But notice those scorelines. We're talking 2-1, 1-0. These are not blowouts. It looks like the combination of playing at home and their current form is just enough to give teams like Midtjylland, PAOK, Freiburg, and Malmo the predicted edge.
But this is where the night gets truly fascinating. Away from those clear favorites, we have this whole cluster of games that are, according to the numbers, almost impossible to separate. These are the real toss-ups.
So get this, you've got 5 massive European ties with teams from all over the continent, and the forecast is identical for every single one of them. Any guesses what that result might be?
That's right, a 1-1 draw, across the board. It's actually an incredible pattern when you look at it. From Portugal versus the Netherlands all the way to Spain versus England. 5 heavyweight clashes are all predicted to end in a stalemate. It just suggests these teams are so evenly matched that their strengths and weaknesses are basically going to cancel each other out. But what's driving that?
Well, a lot of the time, the answer comes down to a simple question. Who's on the pitch and who's on the sidelines? So let's look at the key players, both the ones available and the ones who are absent, who are really shaping these predictions.
First up, let's talk about the difference makers who are actually expected to play. In the EFL Cup, having stars like Son, Foden, and Martinelli available is a huge reason for those lopsided predictions. And over in Europe, creative forces like Tadic for Fenerbahce and Isco for Real Betis, they're exactly why their teams are expected to at least grind out a tough draw on the road. But then you look at the injury list, and it tells a whole other story. Yeah, City might be favored, but they're probably playing without Haaland. Arsenal is missing both Saka and Odegaard. That's huge. These absences absolutely level the playing field, and it helps explain why teams like Fenerbahce, missing Dzeko, or Nottingham Forest without Awoniyi might just have to settle for that draw instead of being able to push for a win.
Okay, so we've looked at the mismatches, we've looked at the toss-ups, the stars who are in, the stars who are out. Let's pull back for a second and just look at the big picture for the entire night.
So, when you pull it all together, what does tonight actually look like? Well, the data is pointing to 8 decisive wins versus 5 really tight draws. And hey, for anyone who just loves goals, it's looking pretty good. More than half the games are predicted to feature 3 or more. It is definitely shaping up for both drama and action.
Ultimately, tonight really is a tale of 2 competitions. The EFL Cup, it should be pretty straightforward for the big clubs. But the real suspense, that nail-biting, edge-of-your-seat action, that is almost certainly going to come from those 5 perfectly balanced Europa League standoffs.
And that leaves us with the final question, doesn't it? The data gives us a logical forecast of what should happen tonight. But we all know football is rarely that simple. The numbers point one way, but the beautiful chaos of the game can always point another. All that's left now is to watch and find out.